statement, but we did just get reaction from the mayor. And in his statement to us, he said that the city council is pressing for strong enforcement and said the suit doesn't clear a sidewalk or get a single person off the street. And his direct quote is that they have no time for this, quote, performative distraction. So what is your response to that?
They have no time. Frankly, the city's had 7 years to deal with our unhoused crisis. And frankly, in those 7 years, our homeless crisis has increased by 250%. Now is the time to act. And I believe that the response as well was that they've been working day and night to enforce the law. I would respectfully disagree with that. In fact, I received an email recently from the city in which they said that they have not received a single citation referral for prosecution in the last year. They are simply not enforcing the law. And that's what I'm asking them to do, to enforce the law and keep our cities clean and safe.
And that email was from the city attorney in regard to the Sacramento Police Department, correct?
Yes. Nonetheless, the city has not prosecuted any single case. And when you don't have a single citation in an entire year, it calls into question whether or not there is a mandate from City Hall not to enforce the law. And so those are some of the questions that we want answers to, and we will get answers through this lawsuit.
And you explicitly asked that question on page 5 of the complaint. Is there a mandate from City Hall to stop law enforcement from enforcing the law? I asked you a similar question during the press conference as well. Do you truly believe that there was some sort of conversation or agreement between City Hall and the police department to stop enforcement?
I know that the police want to enforce the law. They want to keep our streets safe and clean. I have great respect for them. So I find it very surprising that we don't have a single citation or prosecution in the last year from the city. And so we are going to find answers to these questions. Now, the city claims that they're getting voluntary compliance, all right? And if you believe that there is voluntary compliance, I encourage you right now to walk down on C Street, on Alhambra, on Bannon, on Commerce, on Auburn Boulevard in the middle of the night, barefoot and alone. And you tell me whether or not there is voluntary compliance.
You have a list of essentially alleged victims in this and a list of the encampments and certain situations that have happened at them. All of the people listed, and it says explicitly, they're not seeking money, but equitable and injunctive relief. A lot of the complainants say that they've lost a lot of money because of this or public safety. So if they're not seeking money in return, what really is it? What is to come of this suit for them and others?
What they want, what the district attorney office want, is the city to do its job. So through this lawsuit, whether it's by jury or judge, the court is going to eventually mandate the city to do what it's supposed to do, is to enforce the law, to keep our streets clean and safe. And so we're not asking for money. What we're asking for is the court to order the city to do its job. And I've laid out a series of proposals about what the city needs to do, and I sent that to the city back on August the 7th. And those are the things that I'm going to ask the court mandate upon the city to do. 7 years is too long.
So essentially in the old letters that you had sent, not old, I mean this has been happening for a few months now, but in the prior letter you had sent to the city, you'd made the list, I think it was 4 or 5 demands, talking about public data on beds, how many extra city attorneys. Are those demands part of that lawsuit? Is that hopefully what's to come of this?
Absolutely. We've provided the city with a list of proposals that if they implement, we will be able to effectively and efficiently deal with our unhoused crisis in a way that's compassionate for those that live on the streets and those that live off the streets. And so that's what we're going to do, and that's what we're asking the court to do, which is require the city to do those very proposals.
At the end of this lawsuit, let's say the court rules in favor, what does enforcement look like? What would start happening the next day? Where would these people go?
So I want to, in the midterm, develop a policy and a procedure where we have a Haven for Hope model in Sacramento, where if an individual gets arrested for a nonviolent offense and they happen to be unhoused and mental health and drug addiction are the drivers of that offense, they're taken to the Haven for Hope campus instead of jail, given an opportunity to obtain treatment, to avoid jail, to encourage them. That's the true model, but you never get there unless you have the compliance and the enforcement to begin with. And that's what we're lacking here. We're lacking that component.
And that is kind of the ideal on the Hill to look toward. It is some sort of facility like that. We know that takes time and money. It may have to be a ballot initiative and voters may have to vote on it unless it's given by grant money or taken from the general fund. Until something like that is built, what would enforcement look like? And where should those people go?
Well, first of all, I don't think it's a dream on top of a hill. I believe that the resources or the person is offered shelter right here and now, and they refuse, they get a warning. On the second occasion, if they refuse, they get a citation, but it gets dismissed if they accept the shelter bed that is immediately available for them. And on the third occasion, they get cited with a misdemeanor, right, and arrested, but released, and it can be dismissed if they accept shelter. What we want is for people to accept shelter. When Sheriff Cooper and his homeless outreach team went out into the county, what they found was that almost 90% of individuals who were chronically homeless, suffering from mental health and addiction, refused services and refused shelter beds. So what we're trying to do is encourage that treatment-resistant group to obtain and to get the shelter and the services they need. And so the services are there. The shelter beds are there. Are they there enough for every single person? No, but there's enough there so that we can start dealing with those that are most at risk to themselves and the community.
My final question, I believe, is also a parallel lawsuit that was filed privately as well by another attorney by similar complainants. Can you talk about that parallel and what eventually could happen with both of them?
Yes. And so I don't represent individuals, but individuals have been harmed. Individuals have had their businesses shut down, their neighborhoods torn apart. They have been threatened, their lives turned upside down. And so those individuals have retained a civil lawyer that is suing on their behalf. And so that case was filed at the exact same time that our case was filed. And they are traveling on a parallel track. And eventually both cases will most likely join up in the same courtroom in the same place.